Welcome to Chris BI. My name is Chris Wagner, and in today's introduction to TSQL language, we're going to be going over the where clause. All right, before we head over to my desktop, I want you to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, heck, leave a comment down below, turn on that alarm bell so that you get alerted every time I publish some new content. Really excited about the where clause. This is one of the big pieces when it comes to writing your own query, is limiting what goes into that query, right? And that is really primarily done inside of the where clause. Some of the big things you're going to see in the where clause, you're going to see equals, right? So you could set something equal to something else. You could see the in. You could see where you could say something is in this range of values, right? You could say it's like something, right? So give me names like Chris. So you get Chris, Christopher, Christy, that type of a thing. You'll be able to do ands, ors, and nots, so you can do some logical operators. And then a big one is adding in the is null statement. So super excited about that. Let's head over to my desktop and let's actually do some of this stuff with you. All right. You've been following along with the videos. You installed SQL Server, SQL Management Studio, the AdventureWorks database. You understand what database objects are. You've seen how you compose a select statement from starting with your where statement, starting with your from statement, then going to your where statement, then writing your select. Now we're going to be going into and looking at how do we do a where statement. I always like to cheat. Don't make things more complex for yourself, right? Cheat wherever you can. My biggest cheat is selecting the top 1,000 records by right-clicking, select top 1,000 rows, and now I have a query with the select top 1,000 records, and then each of the field numbers that are inside of my table. Now, let's say I wanted to just get certain account types, right? I don't want to necessarily get all of the account types, and I don't necessarily need all of these fields. So I've created my base statement here, but I'm going to remove a few of these items here. I'm going to remove a couple of those. I don't really care about my parent account key. That doesn't make any, I don't care about that. In fact, I don't care about my parent account key or any of these keys. All I care is account key, account description, and account type. And I'll leave an operator for, no, I won't leave an operator, right? So this is what I wanted to have. This is all I need in my query. This looks relatively good, but I really only want to care about when my account type equals assets. So in order to do this, I type in where, and if I put an alias on, that makes it easier. So I'm going to put an alias. I'm going to say DA. And one of the things I like to do when it comes to putting an alias on my accounts or on my tables, is I like to use, especially in a database with, this is called Camel Case, where you have an upper letter and then lower letters, or lowercase, and then uppercase and then lowercase. I like to use the abbreviated values for my alias. This helps me understand what fields I'm referring to when I'm writing more complex queries. So if I start with that, I can do DA dot, and because I've already defined this alias, I can go in and identify, or I could just select from any of the fields that are inside that table to help me write my query. So in this case, I'm looking at account type. And I'm going to say where account type equals. And when you say equals and you're talking about strings inside of TSQL, you have to put these single quotes around whatever value you want. In this case, I want assets. So again, cheat by going down and so I don't have to worry about accidentally typing it wrong. I go down, I right click on a value, I click copy, and then I paste that in. Okay. If I select this, now I only get assets. Okay. So that's my equal sign. Now, That's all well and good, but you say, Chris, I want more than just assets. I actually want assets and revenue. Okay? So, couple different ways to do this. You're saying, oh, Chris, I know you said mention or. Oh, maybe. The best way to do this is to, instead of the equal sign, is to do in. And now we're going to define the array of values that we're going to include inside of my query, right? So I'm going to use the in statement, and then I put in brackets or parentheses the values that I'm looking to include inside my limit here. So in this case, it's revenue. I right click, I copy, and then I paste this in my query that I'm building. Again, I select the query I want to run. Now I see assets and revenue. I'm doing great. Okay. Now let's say, okay, that's all well and good. Chris, I kind of like that, but I really I'd like to find everything that says payable inside of here. Now, in theory, that should all be liabilities, but I really want to hone in on things that include payable inside of the description. Okay. So instead of doing the in statement, I'm going to actually change this around. I'm going to duplicate the value or duplicate my query. So just copy paste. But instead of an in statement on the account type, I'm going to change it to on the account description. And I'm going to say like, I'm going to do paren, and I'm going to say, let's copy this so I don't accidentally spell payable wrong. But I really, I want anything that has payable in it, okay? So to do that, the wildcard in a SQL statement is the percent sign, okay? Now if I put a percent sign at the front, this query is going to give me anything that has payable at the end, but no values afterwards. If I do a percent at the end as well, it will give me any field where payable is in anywhere inside of the description. So if I do this, I go F5. Now I get notes payable. Oh, I get intercompany payables. That's something I did not get before, right? Did you see that? So if no parentheses, hit F5, I get 2. I get to note payables, accounts payable. But if I do a wildcard at the end here, and I hit F5, I also get intercompany payables, all right? So this is an example of how you can get something that's like something else so that you can start to go in and hone in and find things that are similar. Like, oh, maybe I want this and symbol, right? So maybe I'm looking for anything with and in it, right? Let's stick in and inside between my parentheses, hit F5, and here are all of the records that have an and in it. One of the things that we kind of mentioned before was we can start to combine these together. Now, we could do something like, let's take this guy, and we want to combine our first two queries together, where it's account description is like and the account type or is revenue or either revenue or assets. All right. Here's where the and statement comes into play. I hit a character return, I do and then I paste in my new value. Okay. So now in this query, it's going to give me any value, all the records where the account description is like. Basically, it has an and anywhere inside the account description, and the account type is either assets or revenue. If I look at this data set that I just ran that had the and, it basically means I'm not going to get this liabilities, right? So let's watch this. I hit F5, and voila, I get exactly what I said, which is all the same records, except for I don't get the liabilities. Now, you might want to try something along the lines of, instead of an and, let's do an or. Right? So we look at what these values are. I hit F5, and now, you see the difference here, right? Like now it's this either and it has an and statement in it, or it's assets and revenue. So I see all of my assets, I see all of my revenue. Now I also see a liability because there's an and in here. Okay. Uh, I'm going to say when you get into doing these or statements, it gets super, super tricky. All right. But be careful around that stuff. It's really easy to get more than what you're looking for. All right. Um, if we move on to like the next one, we did and, we did or. Now let's talk about not. All right. So we'll say and let not in assets or revenue. Okay. So I select this guy, hit F5, and now I get the only value, the only record inside the account dim table that has an and sign inside of it and does not have an account type of assets or revenue. Okay. Now do this F5. All right. Now we have some special values inside of here that are a little bit different. You'll see that we have some nulls. Now, nulls are different because a null is a kind of a special concept inside of a database where it's simply nothingness. Okay, so something isn't, you can't say equal to null. You actually have to say is null, right? So in this case, we're actually going to select top 1,000 values, right? From the AdventureWorks database, right? So we took that and we're gonna say where EA dot parent account key is null. Okay, so this is gonna give me all of the records inside of the account dim table where the parent account key is null. All right. So, and we can test that out by adding that parent account key back into our query statement and running it. And we can see these are all of the values that are null. If you want the opposite, right, where it is not null, guess what the syntax is not null. Right? So I do select 1,000, F5, and now I only get records where the parent account key exists, right? So it is not null. When you start to work with queries, one of the things you're going to need to have at your disposal is a good text editor. In my opinion, the best text editor is Notepad++. This is free to download. You just go out to Google, type in Notepad++. It'll bring you out to their download site, download it, install it. I'm a big fan of it. Number one, because it does an excellent job of like being a scratch pad for you to dump queries and kind of keep that from the time to time where you come back and forth because Notepad Plus has like an auto cache feature. So like, hello, I am here. So you could type like notes in like queries that you're playing with. If you close out Notepad++ and then open it back up again, it'll still have those values here without you having to have gone in and save it. Now, of course, if you're working on something that is super important that you're going to want to make sure that it would be impossible for you to recreate, you just go in and save that off. Please save that off. While this caching is exceedingly good, in 20 years, twice I've closed out and reopened, and it didn't come bring everything back. I don't know what happened. But generally speaking, it is exceedingly good at that. So I do use it all the time. But if there's anything that's super important to you when working inside, when you're writing a query and you're getting it just right, make sure, and you're editing inside of the text editor, make sure that you go out and you save those queries so that you can definitively always come back to them. Awesome. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. I hope you really enjoyed learning about some of the things that you can do inside the where clause. Now, there is a lot more you can kind of get into and do in there, but for the most part, that's really, that those are the basics of it. All right. Thank you guys very much for joining me today. Again, hit that like, subscribe, leave a comment, share with friends and family, all that good stuff. You guys have a great day. I hope you like this. Peace.